Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind Body and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair, and today's guest is a long-distance expedition athlete awarded National Geographic's Top 10 Adventurers of the Year with Eric Boomer in 2012 Canoe and Kayak Expedition of the Year. As a Polar Tech and North Face athlete, he kayaked across the North Pacific from Japan to Alaska. At that time, he met an old shaman woman of the Koryak tradition. He then dropped out of extreme additions to spend the next 5 years learning from her. Several expeditions and 2 books later, he is touring the country giving talks about a consciousness revolution based on a deep reciprocal communication with the earth. He tells the story of his lifelong journey from suburban Connecticut into a passion for deep wild, an ancient passage repeated in one form or another countless times and ignored just as often. Welcome to the show, Jon Turk.
All right, Matt. Thanks for that great intro.
Yeah, brother. Well, I'm so excited to have you on, and really just dive into your life and what it was like to spend time with that. You wrote in the bio her name. I forget what her name was.
Moolynaut.
Moolynaut?
Yeah, Moolynaut.
Moolynaut. Yeah. What an interesting name. So, I know that's...
I'm going to interrupt you. It means woman who gives blood to the people. And
Wow.
It's a name for giving blood to the people is in its largest sense. It's a name in Koryak for being a healer, for giving that energy of life to the people.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, please interrupt at any time.
You bet.
Yeah, so you have a really incredible background. You've done a lot of things that people probably wouldn't dream of doing, would think are possible. Do you want to give a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today, and then we can dive into I know that you're really passionate about what you learned with her, and I'm super curious about it. But maybe giving a little backstory on some of the amazing things that you've done.
Yeah, well, I was born in a very traditional, loving family in suburban Connecticut. Went to high school with George W. Bush for some big fancy prep school. Prep school. And, I was set, on the agenda to be a, ruler of the universe kind of guy. And went to an Ivy League school and so on and so forth. And then, as I say in my talks, then I discovered fast motorcycles, and just the concept of, I wasn't the first 20-year-old kid to discover fast motorcycles, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is nothing new. But somewhere along the line, I realized that deep in my DNA, this wasn't like a passing fancy. This wasn't something that you do as an aberration, then you go back to becoming, doing what they told you to do all along. So in there, I went, I'm really happy in some situations and not so happy at all in other situations. So blah, 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 blah. I ended up a long distance expedition sea kayaker. Now, along the way, I've done some big wall climbing with Conrad Anker. We did a big wall in Baffin Island, and I mountain biked across the northern Gobi, and I'm a skier at a reasonably high level. But you have to be careful when you say you're a good skier, because there's lots of really good skiers out there. But I'm a competent British Columbia backcountry skier. But what I guess I made a name for myself in is long distance expedition sea kayaking. So I've gone around Cape Horn, I've paddled across the Pacific, and most recently, which you just mentioned, Matt, I did that circumnavigation of Ellesmere with Eric Boomer.
Right, amazing. So it was that last expedition where you met this shaman woman.
No. The shaman woman In 1999 and 2000, I was sponsored by the North Face and Polar Tech, and we went to paddle across the Pacific Ocean from Japan to Alaska. And we're along the way there. It turned out to be a 2-year expedition. We thought we could do it in one. It was just too hard and too long, and we didn't. So we're paddling along one day, and there's a village, and we were thinking about stopping in the village. But already, even in the second year, we're behind schedule. We got closed in by the ice, and now we really wanted to get to Alaska before winter, before the ocean freezes up again. So we think we're gonna like pass the village and just keep going, get another 5 or 10 miles in the afternoon. And the indicators, that part of the coast, the weather was really easy to predict. You notice something on your barometer watch, you notice a change of pressure, and we always knew when storms were coming. But this day, just as we go by the village, all of a sudden this horrendous wind just comes up out of nowhere. There are no lenticular clouds, it's just, and it starts raining, and there's foam in the air, and it's all crazy. And we go, maybe we should better go to the village after all, stop in and get out of this storm. So we come through the surf, and this woman, this Koryak woman, walks up the beach, and she's talking in English. And she says, "John, Misha, it's good to see you. We were expecting you. The grandmother created the storm to bring you to our village. She wants to talk to you." Okay. What am I thinking? I'm thinking, I have a PhD in chemistry. I went to high school with George W. Bush. I grew up in suburban Connecticut. This doesn't compute. But there's a storm out there, and there's a nice warm house in there, and these people are going to feed me, and we can dry our clothes out, and they're going to be nice to us, and it's really nasty out there. And I'm in the middle of Siberia. I'm out on the nearest paved road is 9 time zones away. I'm not in a position to question or argue. I'm in this culture. Great. I say, great, we'd love to talk to the grandmother. And all of a sudden, the next 5 years was taken up. That's that moment where I said, we'd love to talk to the grandmother. That changed my life.
So are you saying that she also knew your name without talking to her?
Well, there's a kind of a bush telephone circuit going on. We've been paddling up the coast. We've been meeting fishermen. So I wouldn't put too much credibility in that one. People are on the radio back and forth, so they knew we were coming. But the storm, that one, I still don't have any good explanation for.
So did you stay by yourself, or did your whole, how many people on your expedition?
2. There's me and my Russian friend Misha. And the next day, we were still storming. We went up and talked to Moolynaut, and really, she didn't have much to say. It wasn't like, I'm your guru, I'll give you a mantra, that kind of thing. It's nothing like that. She said, we talked for a little bit, and I asked her some things, but she wasn't like gonna give me any. Nothing significant happened. But when we're leaving, she says, "Come back next spring. It will be good to see you. It will be good for you if you come back." And we were on this expedition now. We had to get out of here before winter. We were moving. So as soon as the storm broke the following day, we got in our boats and we got out of there, and then finished that expedition successfully. But on the way, Misha says to me, He says, this woman is a real meal deal. This is a real healer, shaman woman. She was born during the reign of Tsar Nicholas II. She remembers standing on a hilltop, looking down on the beach, her father trading walrus ivory and caribou reindeer for Winchester rifles because they're fighting the Bolsheviks. I mean, this woman goes way back. And he says, there's only one time in your life that an old shaman, born almost in the Stone Age, is going to ask to talk to you. So we're coming back. And then so we only saw her one couple hours the first time. And then we finished the expedition. And then the following year we came back, and that launched this 5-year period.
Wow. It's not like you're just taking a plane to her. It sounds like it's a bit of a mission just to get to where she is.
Well, there's no roads in that part of Siberia.
So she's in Siberia.
Siberia, yeah, the far east coast, the Pacific coast of Siberia. So if you walk due west from there, you literally walk 9 time zones before you get to a paved road. Due north, the next geographic point of interest is the North Pole. Due south, if you go down to Manchuria or China or Vladivostok, there's roads and railroads, but it's a pretty remote place. But there is air traffic there, and they have a rich fishery, and Japanese fishing boats come up there. So to get there, it's a bit of a project to get there, but yeah, go ahead.
What it reminds me of, have you ever heard the books of Anastasia?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of what it reminds me of. And so for people who don't know, Anastasia is this kind of like woman who lives in the middle of the Russian forest, and somebody was adventuring out. I don't know if he's a scientist or what he was, but he runs into this woman in the middle of the forest, and she teaches him all these things about food and living in harmony with nature and mysticism and communicating with, the universe and the forest and animals and all kinds of stuff.
You got it.
Yeah. Have you read any of those books?
Yes, I have. And all my Russian friends told me when this first came out, the books had not yet been translated into English. But my Russian friends all went, "Oh yeah, this is what's happening."
Right. Amazing. Okay. So we have the origin story of how you found this incredible shaman. Okay, so what happens in there? Like, what did you learn over the 5 years? What are you bringing back? Well, tell me all the stories. What happened? Tell me everything.
Oh no. Well, it starts out very simple. I mean, like I say, we don't go there and she gives you a mantra and the meaning of life. She was like, "Oh, wow, you guys have money. You can buy gas. You can buy enough gas to get a couple drums of fuel and go out and find these reindeer and these reindeer people because we need meat." I say, "Okay, great." So we buy a couple drums of fuel, and we go out on the tundra, and we're out on the tundra for a while. Can't remember how long, a couple weeks. And we're looking, we can't find the reindeer, of course. So we stay longer than we need to, and now things are starting to break up. And it was spring, we left in March, but now it's starting to break up. So we're coming home, and we found the reindeer. We got reindeer meat. We located the people. We spent some time in the reindeer camp, and now we're almost out of fuel, but we got a load of meat, and we're coming back. And we're crossing a creek. It's April and things are breaking up. We drop a snow machine into the creek, right? This is standard expedition travel, right? So I wrestle down to muscle the sled out of the creek. Now, I've got an old avalanche injury. I got busted up in an avalanche outside of Fernie a number of years previously, and it was a bad break. And so anyway, my pelvis is all bolted together with stuff. So I'm muscling the sled out of the Korean, when I kapowie, I tweak my pelvis again, my old injury, and I can't walk. Now I'm lying on the snow. I can't walk. I'm out in the middle of Siberia. If I could have called a helicopter, I would have. I was like, this isn't good. And my friends are like, not to worry, man. We'll tie you on the sled and on a toboggan behind the sled, and we'll haul you back, and the old lady will fix you up. And this is like number two. Like, give me a break. Let me out of here. Just okay. All right. That's all we got. So we go back to town. They are so unconcerned that we passed a good fishing hole and they stopped fishing for a day, we already got meat and now we may as well put up some fish, So it's okay. Don't worry about it, dude. So actually I'm starting to get a little better and I can walk a little bit, but a lot of pain. So we go back and the grandmother goes, well, look, you bought the gas, you're helping us. We're going to help you. I'll fix you. I'll heal you. And now I'm so far into this, it's just whatever. So we go into this room and she has me stripped naked, stand on one foot and put one arm behind my back and the other arm straight out in front of me. And she spits on my pubic hair and she starts chanting. And she says, do you believe in what we're doing? Because if you don't believe, I've initiated the process. If you don't believe, it's going to be really bad. I've gone into the other world and talked to Kutka, the raven god, the messenger raven. And if you don't believe in what's happening, it's going to be bad for me and bad for Kutka, and really bad things are going to happen to you. Okay. I'm naked. I'm standing on one foot. I'm in a pose.
That's okay.
And she's scary. This woman is scary. She's about 4'10" high. She's 96 years old, and she's got the fiercest eyes you can ever imagine. She's like, I'm boring into you. I can't lie to this woman. So I says, well, I'm a white man. I grew up in a white man's world. My mother never taught me to believe in Kutka the raven, but I'm going to try. I'll try with all my heart. And she continues to chant, and then she tells me to put my foot down, stand on two legs. And I'm so confused, I didn't even realize, I don't remember I'm standing on one foot. And I go, put my foot down. What is she saying? Oh, I'm standing on one foot. And I put my foot down and I'm better. And my wife was there and I walk out and she says, what's going on? I said, I'm better. And she goes, well, give me a break. What? I says, let's go skiing tomorrow. I had my skis with me. And there's a mountain outside of town. It's called Man with the Fast Shoes Mountain, named after some guy who probably independently invented skis a long time ago. And we decided we're going to ski. There's a south-facing couloir, 40, 45 degrees south-facing couloir on Man with the Fast Shoe Mountain. And we decided we're going to ski it. And we climb up, kind of the east side, and it's icy. And there's a cornice, and we, have lunch in the sunshine and everything. And we're trusting that the couloir is going to be soft because of the sun. And I launch it, and I'm in the air. It's only maybe a 6-foot jump, but it's still a 6 foot. you're in the air and you're going to hit that. And like in that millisecond, it takes to land 6 feet. I'm thinking, wait a minute, my pelvis is screwed up. If I hit this thing and lose it, I'm somersaulting down this whole couloir. This isn't good. And there's a little S turn in the start. So you pinball off the rock. And I land it and it's icy. And I hit it and I'm just hanging on my edge and I make another turn and make it through the S turn just barely. And then you turn back in the south facing and it's soft, 40-degree, tight, soft couloir, just perfect corn. And it's like, I'm better, man. I'm starting to open up my turns and I'm just flying down that couloir and I'm better. And I've never had that pain again. That problem is over. And I came back home and I skied. We live in Fernie in the winter. I hope I'm not dragging this on too long. I ski the whole winter aggressively. And I go, okay, I got to go back and find out what's going on because I don't understand what's going on. So that launched. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, totally. Well, so for me, and just so you know, this audience, you can go as deep as you possibly can. I want the weirdest, strangest, most outrageous story. I'm reading the teachings of the masters of the Far East right now, and it's you know those books?
No,
they're amazing. So it's T. Spalding is this researcher, scientist in 1894 who goes to India. And he meets Yogi, and it takes him a while to realize that he's one of the adepts that has these special powers. And an expedition team follow these yogis and these spiritual masters around. Within like 30 pages of the first book, people are disappearing and reappearing. They're healing people, all this kind of stuff. And this is supposed to be, you know, this ancient wisdom that we all have access to, you know, like it's really deep stuff. And, you know, I had a few podcasts ago, David Lombert Senepas, native elder for the Mi'kmaq Nation. And he's like, this stuff is like normal for our people. We've lost a lot of this information, this lineage, but it does exist and it is possible. So, you know, like.
That's exactly what I'm talking about in every talk when I'm on the road, that we have this power in our DNA and we've lost it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I come back and I say, it's like, I want to learn more, but I don't know how to ask. So I come back with presents, you know, wool socks, warm gloves, a nice pile jacket, stuff that she can use. And I ask her, I say, I bring her these gifts, big Santa Claus pack full of gifts, because we had to walk in, we had to ski in. And so I'm carrying this big heavy pack with all kinds of presents, a big pack of presents. I really did feel like Santa Claus going across the North Pole, you know, skiing across the tundra with this pack of presents.
That's awesome.
So I give her her stuff and I says, I want to thank you. And she says, she grabs all this stuff and puts it under her bed, you know, to make sure she doesn't have to give it back. She says, well, thank you for the stuff, but you're thanking the wrong person. I didn't do anything. I just connected you to Kutka the raven. You have to thank Kutka the raven. So I go, yeah, you know, I'm a white man, you know, I grew up in suburban Connecticut. How do you thank Kutka the raven? She says, well, I just have the ticket. I knew you were coming. I picked some amanita. We're going to eat the amanita, the hallucinogenic mushroom, and we're going to go to the other world together. And I'm going to introduce you to Kutka and you can thank him. Okay. So we eat the amanita and I go for a walk and do some things, go up in the thing, pick some berries. It's snowy. It's November. It's cold. And then I come back and I sit down with the old grandmother, and all of a sudden something clicks in. And You know, I'm a child of the 60s. I've done hallucinogens before, but this is a different level. This is something that I've never been to. Something has kicked in, and I'm in the labyrinth, and I'm going to the other world. And I see a little circle of light, and that's the other world. And the grandmother tells me I've got to cross the threshold and find Kutka. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. I have never been so terrified. There's all kinds of fear. You know, there's fear of skiing something steep, or there's fear of a guy holding you up at gunpoint. Uh-uh. I am not crossing that threshold. I'm sorry. And in the hallucinogenic journey, in the dream world, whatever it was, I turn around and I'm running through the labyrinth, escaping. I am not, if I cross that threshold, do not have the power to get back. I don't have enough power, enough control. I know I can walk across the threshold into that other world. I don't know if I can come back. So I get lost in the labyrinth, and I'm in between the real world and the dream world. And this is not fun.
No, that sounds terrible.
Bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally I get back out, and Lydia, the original woman who met us, now Moolynaut's gone. All this, she was there, and then when I started in the labyrinth, she's gone. She went home and went to bed. I'm in the room by myself. I didn't know that. But I'm out there and I'm in the room, and it's like now I'm in the real world, and I hear Lydia in the kitchen. So I went in there. She says, "You're white." And she starts pulling on my hands and massaging my hands. She says, "You're not back in the real world yet." And she's pulling on me, pulls me back to the real world. Okay. So now I have a sense of failure. You know, I chickened out of the big move. It was right there in front of me, you know, and I didn't drop it. And I came halfway around the world to drop the big move. And when it was in front of me, I backed off. So I've had a sense of failure. The next morning, Olek, big bear of a man, the hunter. I mean, he is physically the hunter, but the metaphor is there too. He is the hunter image. No mention of "you're a failure, Jon." No mention of, it's not discussed. Nobody talks about it. And Olek says, "Get your things, we're going hunting." It's November, it's Siberia, it's starting to get cold. The river is still open. We go by speedboat up the river, get a bunch of meat. I mean, this is critical. You have to understand. I keep bringing the meat image in, but this is food for the winter. So we get enough meat we're hunting for the old people now, because Olek and Lydia have enough meat, but the old people don't. So we fill the boat up with meat and do a bunch of fishing. We got a bunch of food. No talk about the other world or Kutka or failure or something. So we're going down the river, and now the river's starting to freeze up. And you have a little thin tinkle of ice in the river, and you're going down the river, and you can hear the aluminum hull tinkle through the ice. It's a really beautiful sound. And then Olek cuts the engine. We're spinning in the current. And Olek never talks about spiritual things. Olek is the hunter. And he says, "Jon, you know why you failed to complete the journey to the other world?" And I go, "No, I don't. I was too scared." He said, "Yeah, and you made the right decision. You know, sometimes you don't drop that line because you're not a good enough skier to ski it, and you're going to get hurt if you do. And you know your limitations, and you were right. If you had gone to the other world, you maybe wouldn't have come back, because it takes a lot of power, more power to go from the other world to the real world than from the real world to the other world. So you made the right call." In fact, you're a hunter like me. You are a lousy traveler in the spirit world. I go, okay. But the real world and the spirit world are the same world. So if you want to go thank Kutka, you have to do it in the way that you have power. And so you're going to have to come back and do a walkabout, a journey, a, a journey to nowhere in cold time, on the snow, on the tundra, where you're going to get tired, where you're going to get hungry, where you're going to get frostbitten, where you're going to get frostbitten and strung out, and you might die out there. But if you don't die, you will make your journey, and Kutka will come to you, and you can thank them. And
That doesn't
I look at my
better.
friend. What?
That doesn't sound much better.
Well, to me, it sounds a lot better. You don't know how scary it was in the hallucinogenic dream world. Man,
Yeah,
the
no.
tundra is something I can handle.
Okay. Oh man. Okay.
So I look at my buddy Misha and I say, "Are you in? You coming with me?" He said, "You bet." So we came the next year and we went on a walkabout. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, of course I want you to keep going, man.
All right. By the way, just as a little bit of commercialism, this is all written up in my book, The Raven's Gift, which is, anyway, commercialism.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna link up your book for sure. I'm so curious about all this. So yeah, keep laying it on me.
So we go on this walk on the tundra, and all these things happen, you know. It gets cold and it gets warm and it gets windy, and you know, we get tired and hungry and strung out and all that stuff. And no Kutka, you know, done. No Kutka. So okay, well, you know, you're on a Buddhist quest, you don't get what you want, you can't get bummed out, no Kutka. And then on the last day of the trip, the last day when we were leaving the wilderness and going back to town, there was this beautiful lighting. And I went, I gotta catch a picture of this. It's just blue, like we've been on the tundra for a month. I haven't seen anything like this. I go grab my camera. By the time I get my camera case off, the lighting is gone. And then there's this big bird flying up valley. And it's a big raven, a real raven in the real world. And it flies up and it comes overhead and it circles down until it's about an arm's length away. It's hovering. I could reach out and touch it if I almost, or whatever, it's real close. And I thank the raven, and it flies up out of sight and then comes back. Same distance. I thank it again. Goes away. Now there's a sequel to the story. I was married to this woman. She died in an avalanche on the east face of Mount Tom. So I'm carrying her ashes up to the top of the Three Sisters Peak in Fernie, outside of Fernie. Which is, there's a ski line that you don't get to ski every year, but you get to ski it sometimes when the conditions are perfect. I'm carrying her ashes up the mountain. Actually, there's couple of different lines off of this mountain. We're up on the high ridge. It's a August day. It's a thunderstorm. It's starting to grapple and hail and snow in August on the high mountain. And this is British Columbia. And we're standing right above one of Chris's favorite ski lines. It's a big line. Well, you know, it's big enough. Now it's all talus, it's all rock. There's no snow on it. And the raven comes. And it flies, hovers over my head, same distance, just an arm's length above me. And then it drops down to knee level off the ground, and it skis the slope. It just makes perfect turns down this slope until I can't see it anymore because it's a couple thousand feet. And it just skis to the bottom. And it swoops up and it comes back, circles down, and skis the slope again and goes away. So, yeah, so the raven's there, you know, and the raven wants to talk to you, and the raven has opened its spirit world to us, and it's there. And now to make a bunch of jumpy things, you know, I'm on the road, I'm living out of the back of my pickup, I'm living in the concrete jungle, and I'm doing my dog and pony show, you know, Boston and all over the place, you know. And some old woman in the back raises her hand, you know, and people are asking me all kinds of questions, you know. She says, "You're talking about power, and you're living in the concrete jungle and sleeping in the back of your pickup truck and doing your dog and pony show. Don't you think it's time that you went out and really played with real power again? You wrote about it, but now you got to play with it again." I go, "Yep, you're right." So now, when I spent these 5 years with the grandmother, this was before Chris died, and see, all my sponsors dropped me. They were, you know, if you can do the next gnarliest thing, they want to give you money and, you know, do your thing. But if you say, "Look, I'm going to go talk to the old grandmother because we ate the hallucinogenic mushroom, and you know, and I'm on this journey to talk to Kutka, and I haven't quite gotten to talk to him yet." You see, the big money doesn't want, they're not going to buy your plane ticket for that one. So all of my sponsors dropped me. Now they're done with sponsors. So I go, okay, I got to do something big. I got to go big. I'm 65 now. I say, I got to go big one more time. That's what I got to do. So then the Ellesmere trip came up, and blah, 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 blah. I ended up hooking up with Eric Boomer, who's an extreme whitewater kayaker. And we go to do the Ellesmere trip. And now I'm going to skip 300 pages of my next book, Crocodiles and Ice. But the wonderful thing about that trip was a really hard trip. And I'm 65, Boomer's 27, and you know, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Even if I had been 27, it was hard. But like you were saying, Matt, there's power. It's all about power. And you can't always tap into it. You can't count on it. You know, I can't jump to the moon, or I can't you know, ski an 80-degree spine line in Valdez. I mean, you can't do everything, but there's power. And when you tap into that power for you, you know it. And the thing the Ellesmere trip did more than anything, Boomer was really strong and really young. I was really old. I pushed myself. We finished the trip, completed the trip 104 days, half a marathon a day, every day, pulling kayaks over some of the roughest terrain on earth for 1,500 miles, 100 days, over 3 months, half a marathon a day, every day. Finished the trip, and my metabolism shut down. I was on the edge of death. I was so close when they finally got me in the Learjet medevac thing, going to Ottawa to the big hospital. They put passenger jets on hold to let us land because that extra few seconds was critical. So the grandmother gave me the power to push my body right to the edge of death, which is where she wanted me to go, right to the edge of the other world and come back. And that was the greatest gift she ever. That was a really great gift. And that's kind of the story in a nutshell. That covers, 15 years of my life and 2 books.
Wow, man. Well, holy smokes, I'm a bit speechless. It's amazing. Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing so candidly, and I know some of that was probably tough to share. Really. Okay, so what do I ask? I guess for you, going through this entire experience, having these supernatural things, experiencing, other world here on Earth, knowing, it's a new realm of possibility, as you say, when you're meeting with the grandmother. I grew up in the white man's land. I don't know. How do I believe? I actually had another guy on Coot Blackson, and his father lived in Africa, and he was like this famous healer. And Coot, at the beginning of the podcast, is like, my father could heal people of diseases and like blindness and like stuff that's not possible. And he tried to glaze over it. And I was like, wait a second. You're saying that your father could do miracle healings. He's
Right.
like, yeah, but this was just normal to me. I didn't know anything else. He's like, I didn't know any. I didn't know that this was impossible to other people. I just was watching my dad do it. So I asked him how he did it. And he gave me the only answer that could hold any credibility, which was, he said his father didn't do it. He said
Great.
he held the person in perfect form, and the person would do it himself. And it's the same thing that Yogananda says in the autobiography of a yogi. It's the same thing that they're saying in the teachings of the masters of the Far East. Now, how the heck do you do that? I don't know. But I have heard these stories before, and even on a less magical sense, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, people have terminal illnesses, incurable illnesses, but they go into a meditative state and they picture healing, and they have to get out of their mind, out of their belief system, out of that repetition of every day of, this is my illness and I'm identifying with it, and this is my belief system around it, and all of that, into the quantum world or the spiritual world or to another reality or into a different thought or into belief. And they're healing themselves of things that are incurable by, doctor standards, by, this is real and this is not possible, but they're doing it. So for me, this is like music to my ears, and I know that it's all true. You can see in your face that you're telling a true story. What kind of motive would you have? If anything, you want to keep that to yourself, because you got to tell people, man, I saw this. And I have stories like that. And I'm just like, man, I saw this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It was super crazy. So when doing all that, what kind of message do you want to give to people? How can we take that story, and how can I take that wisdom from the grandmother and apply it to my life to experience this power to realign, you know, to access that a little bit more, I guess. Or
yeah, Matt, that's the question. And when I finished Crocodiles and Ice, finished the book Crocodiles and Ice, which is the story does the Ellesmere thing, and then we went on this bike ride across the Himalayan plateau to find the birthplace of the Dalai Lama, and we finally get to the birthplace of Dalai Lama, and we go through this thing. And I write this paragraph about the Dalai Lama and the understanding of the message, and then I go, but I didn't answer the question that you just asked. And people are going to pick up the book and they're going to say, yeah, what's this book about? I don't want to go around the ice on Ellesmere Island, and I don't want to ride across the Himalayan plateau just to find an old mud hut and go, yo. So what's the message of the book? And I go, I can't put this book out until I reduce it to something that makes sense in an urban world. Okay, so I'm racking my head, and it's like, how do I end this book? So I'm working as a storyteller with a dance company, and I worked for 2 years with Weber Dance, doing some of this stuff in telling the stories and converting the story with the dancers into motion. It was really beautiful, and we're playing New York and San Francisco. We're doing it. And now we're in central Colorado with a grant from the Colorado Performing Arts Council. And we're doing dances for adult audiences at night and going to schools during the day. So we're doing, you know, Main Street School and Park Avenue School. And then they say, we want you to go to the Youth Recovery Center in Glenwood Springs. What kind of school is a Youth Recovery Center, you know? So we go there, and it's a brick building, and there's bars on the window and steel doors and guys with guns. I go, oh, okay, this is a prison. Okay, we're going to a prison. And it's a prison for 14 to 18-year-old kids. And they've all messed up. They all have drug problems, and some of them have been violent. And they're in prison. They're too young to be in prison. And they file in, and they're beaten, defeated people. And they've been told that some people from somewhere are going to come and talk to them, and they don't care. They don't want to talk to us. And they're all standing there glaring at me with this, you know, what do you know? I'm not going to listen to you. And I get up, and we get up there, and the dancers and the choreographer, Jody, and I have been on the road. We're traveling together. We're pretty close. And Jody says, Jon, you're the talker. You start talking. And I go, we haven't prepared for this. We had no idea this was happening. And I say, let's talk about healing. Let's talk, everybody gets broken. You break your leg, you break your pelvis, you break your spirit, you break something. Everybody gets broken. See, it's not about learning not how to break things, it's learning how to fix them. So let's talk about getting better. How do you get better after you've been broken? And I said, I can't really talk about it. Let's start dancing it. And we start dancing, the dance of flowing water and the dance of blowing wind and the dance of getting better. And we're all doing this improv theater. And then I say, see, way back when we were in the Narrow Strait, one of my friends said, if you have a barrier that you've got to get across. You're not tough enough to cross over that barrier. If you think you're tough and you're going to cross over that barrier because you're a gnarly dude, you're going to die. You have to vaporize the barrier. The barrier doesn't exist anymore. And I tell these kids, if you're going to get tough or strong enough to get out of prison, you're not going to get out of prison. The only way to get out of prison is to dance your way out of prison. And we're going to dance the dance of getting out of prison. And the dancers start doing this improv theater dance. And we had every single one of those beaten, cynical, destroyed, angry child criminals up dancing, the dance of getting out of prison. And tears were streaming down my face, Matt. So you ask, what's the lesson? There's this power, and the power of the grandmother is we're in lots of prisons, man. We're in lots of prisons right now. They're all around us. There's chaos out there. And what the grandmother told me to do, and what I'm leaving the message to the world, is we have to dance our way out of these prisons. That's the take home.
Holy. Jon, geez. Okay. I'm just getting chills up and down my body listening to this. It's so interesting on so many different levels because I can imagine it and I can be there, and while I'm listening to your story. So it, not even to the same effect, but after one of the Burning Mans I went to, I would say, have you been to Burning Man by chance?
No, I haven't, Matt.
I'd love to hang out with you on the playa. That'd be super fun.
Well, let's do it someday.
Brother, man, it would be an honor to be able to burn with you, my friend. That would be such a pleasure. Anyway,
let's do it.
Yeah. Anyway, all my resources are your resources.
Thank you.
So one of these downloads I had, so, we're both athletes and we visualize, right? And
yeah.
Use that power in the mind. And so Dr. Joe's work, you go into a state and you visualize what you want. So you visualize the trick for snowboarders or extreme sports athletes. You visualize your business being successful. You visualize the partner you want or whatever. So I'm at Burning Man and I'm aware that you need to generate the emotion to create the thing. If you can generate emotional charge, then you're not really hitting the quantum field or spirit or whatever, right? You got to believe, you got to generate that. So I got this download for like manifestation dancing, where I would imagine the future as I wanted. And rather than sitting, because it's not as active, I don't have the body, I actually dance as if I have the reality I want. And I tested it with some friends I was with. I was like, hey man, do me a favor. And we're dancing. I was like, just imagine that I was a genie and I could give you everything you ever wanted in this life to have the most beautiful, amazing, abundant experience for you, for your family, for your friends, and for the world. And you're in that world, and then I want you to dance as if it's here right now in this moment. And you could see the physiology and the way they dance change instantly.
Right.
And so I think that your analogy is so profound and so deep because, people are in mental prisons. You're probably aware of the additional forces that we have to deal with that are on this planet, whether it's food or education or, crappy media. So do you have like any other amazing stories that you'd like to share that come up, or a way to so we're in the prison, we're dancing. A lot of time you need a guide, and what you came in there is this massive light and you didn't know. And that was a spirit brought you to the grandma. I think that you were brought to those kids as this shining light. You're not prepared. You don't know what to do, because in the mind, you're not going to get them out of the mind. You're not going to be able to go mind to mind, tell them words, and then they're going to fix themselves. You circumvented the situation with a new experience and paradigm and showed them something else and healed a lot of kids. So can you give us maybe an example of how someone might be able to apply that concept or touch that power or have that experience within the concrete jungle? Or do you know what I'm getting at?
I know what you're getting at. Boy, I'd really like to work with you more, Matt. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Everybody is different. Everybody has different strengths and powers and internal force field, energy field, whatever you call it, you know. I can ski a whole lot better than I can play the banjo, you know. Because my DNA wants to ski and my DNA isn't so good at banjo playing, I'll tell you. So I think it's dangerous to tell people how to make the journey, because then it becomes a dogma. And as soon as it becomes a dogma, you're in dangerous, really dangerous grounds. But what I would like to say is magic flies by you all the time, in little ways or big ways. And so you have some magical thing happening and it's flying by. And I've started my next book and I don't know if it's going to finish it. I don't know where it's going. But you're walking down in the subway, you know, and there's this dude playing the pots and pans and some little tin whistle that he got at Walmart for 18 cents, you know, and it's really horrible, but the guy's got the energy, you see. And it's magic. And you stop and you pick up on his magic. And every day, you know, we're doing our work, we're in traffic, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're paying the bills, we're taking care of a crying baby, you know, whatever it is. And this little bit of magic flies by. See, now we have a choice. We can go, wait a minute, hold it. I'm going to follow that magic right now in some way. That magic that resonates with me. Or I'm not, because I'm too busy. And I can't give you like follow this leader or follow that leader or read this book or do this, because that might not be you. And then it becomes a religion, and there's a Bible, and then we're in trouble. We're in bad trouble. It doesn't work. So what I tell people over and over again is look inside yourself and see where your power is. It might take some time. And then identify things that happen in your life that touch that power or resonate or reciprocate with that power. And then, you know, if you have to drop everything for 5 years, you know, just drop it. Follow it, man. You know, and there's nothing more important than following that power. Nothing. And you make up stories and you tell yourself you can't do it, but don't believe those stories. So it's a generic suggestion. It's not, you know, specific. I know this healer who will take you here. It might be your music teacher, it might be your art teacher, it might be your granddaughter who will sit on your knee and show you where the magic is. You don't know. Motherhood, you know, motherhood is, you know, some people are mothers, some people are skiers or snowboarders, you know, run the half pipe, be a mother. I mean, it's how you look at it, it's how you do it, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's again really deep and profound wisdom, and I love your answer, because what it reminds me of is one of my big influences is Bruce Lee, and you obviously know who Bruce Lee is, and
of course,
greatest martial artist of all time. And when he would teach, you know, his way, he didn't even want to make it Jeet Kune Do, which what it is, because he didn't want it to be this set rule set. Not one way is the same for everybody in martial arts. He's like, if you're a big fat guy, a technique for a tall skinny guy, you know, one of them might work for one and not for the other. So you got to find what resonates with you. You got to find the techniques and the strategies that work for you. And it's essentially what you're saying is that same philosophy for spirituality, your connection to your power, your connection to your spirit, your connection to, you know, the magic is your own path. You can't say, go see the grandmother in Siberia, and that might not be your path. That might only be, you know, someone else's. And as you say, the magic is everywhere. And I think that's a really powerful and beautiful quote. Magic flies by you all the time. And that's what presence, you know, why isn't it magical when we see, you know, a butterfly or in you? Because, you know, we're both extreme sports athletes, you know, standing on top of the mountain by yourself, feeling, you know, just raw nature at that level. It's 100% magic. And that's why people are so drawn to it, because you are forced into the present moment. You're one with nature. You're out beyond all, you know, that when you ski to the bottom and you're at the chalet, you're back into the song and dance of illusion, you know? And
I like that. Song
yeah.
and dance of illusion.
Mm-hmm. And so it's, you know, it's good because we're a part of that and we are of that world. But it doesn't need to be, you know, in it. What's that quote? We're of the world, but not of it. You know, we're in the world, but not of it. And so it's people get attached to that, and they find that that's the real thing, and that's where they get sucked in. And Alan Watts talks about sitting on the mountain with the Buddhists and with the monks and saying, we're watching you play your game, and we're happy for you to do it, but we're not going to play. You know what I mean? We can see and we're enjoying, but like that's not real, you know? And you can check out at any time, and you can get to the mountaintop, and you can sit and you can breathe and you can observe. And if you're like skiing and snowboarding, that's your way. If you like music, that's your way. You know, if you like kids, that's your way. And so, you know, connecting to that piece of you that really brings out that magic, that connection, is the ultimate advice, because, you know, my way can't be anyone else's way. You know, it's like, I like Krishnamurti because when you ask him questions, it's like playing ping pong with a brick wall. He just fires it back at you. You know, he's just like, Krishnamurti, how much should I meditate? And he's like, why do you want to meditate? It's like, well, don't you meditate? He's like, yeah, I meditate, but why do you want to meditate? And, you know, he's just so relentless, and he's so incredible, because that's the truth. You know, we really have to start finding our own way. So I just wanted to add on, like, you know, for me, just sitting here, just getting dusted with really amazing wisdom is a real treat. And I guess I wanted to ask, like, with the grandmother, did she even give you any advice? Like, did she offer, you know, ancient words of wisdom, or like make any analogies of what it was like to live in her world versus your world, or anything along those lines?
Not in the way you say it. When she was 103 years old, she hooked up her dog team, and we ran out in the ice to go ice fishing. But she didn't talk about it. You know, we went ice fishing because we needed food. She didn't talk about it in some sort of a metaphysical journey. It was like, if we catch fish, we eat dinner. So no, I never got from her. And people have said to me, "Oh, I want to go." I mean, she's passed away now, but people have said, "I want to go see the grandmother, and maybe she'll, you know, teach me the meaning of life." And I say, no, it's not going to work like that, you know. And it's like what you just said, Matt. Why do you want to, you know, how long do you meditate? Why do you want to meditate? It was always just leading me to journeys where I would interact with she wasn't the teacher. Kutha was the teacher. She was just the person who introduced me to Kutha. So the tundra is your teacher. I do these talks and workshops and everything where we talk about the three sources of power in the Koryak tradition. There's the tundra. No, start off. Sorry about that. There's the shaman who takes you on the spiritual journey, the hunter who brings home the meat, and the tundra is the foundation. Everything goes back to the tundra. So, no, she didn't tell me what to do. She didn't say you should do this. She said that if you go out on the tundra, and the tundra could be a physical, real tundra, it could be a dance floor, music, or grandfather, it's whatever. If you go out into the natural world as it exists and see it in its rawest, purest form, that's your teacher. And then any words I have is just, they're not as important.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. It's, again, to bring back the, I trekked Everest and, looking at that, the night sky there and being in that experience, there's no words, you can capture the greatest photo, the greatest drone, 4K footage, 360 panorama, and it's not even close to the real experience, So again, it's and I think it's so important that people really, really, nail that home, that there's no one way for everybody. And I think that this experience was your experience, something that you earned. That's what I think from sitting over here listening. You earned that from following your heart, following your bliss, doing, listening to yourself, and then spirit and the universe gave you a deserving experience. That was connecting you to something higher, to something greater that can never be taken away from you, ever. No matter, scientist comes in, it's like, all right, man, like, it's just like, it's you don't even need anyone else to believe it, because you know it, and that's what it's for. It's your own connection to spirit. So, if you've had that, then that's all earned, and we all have to earn it in our own way, and that's the only way you earn it, by moving towards that magic in your own life, because we're kind of on this human adventure, and when we begin to compromise our lives, little by little by little by little by little, all of a sudden we're living this life that we don't want, that it doesn't resonate with us, that doesn't allow us to connect with magic and joy and passion and what we love to do. And so I think that you were unwilling to compromise, and then you had this magical experience, and now you can share it, and that's really true wisdom. So that's just I don't know, me just saying thank you for that. Thank you for doing that and inspiring so many people, and coming back with a genuine message. It's not like you come off the mountain and you bring that grandma in, right, that can heal people and do magic, real magic, and she's like, I'm your guru, listen to me, and 4 of these and 5 of those, and the Western culture really loves that. You just tell me what to do, and really the whole real mastery is, no, you tell you what to do. We can be guides, and we can listen, and we can help. When we're, like coaching, for me, I get challenged with a lot of coaches and spiritual teachers because of this kind of like subtle role that I can see that they have of like, I know, and this is the way. Man, I don't know shit. I know that meditation helped me. I know that taking care of my body helps me. I know that changing my diet helps me, but how do we find what helps you? How do we find what's going to get your connection to spirit and all that kind of stuff, And so you're kind of doing the same thing, where you're coming down and you're saying, look, this was my experience, and I want to share it with you honestly, and I hope that can help. Now, how do we find your experience? How do we help you connect to your magic? And that's what a real master is. So I definitely recognize that within you, and so grateful to have you on and share that amazing story. So I guess I wanted to ask if there's anything else that you wanted to share or that you wanted to talk about, or you wish that I had asked.
No, it's been a great interview. You've covered everything. Let's go ride our mountain bikes or paint a pretty picture. We got things to do today.
Yeah, totally. I know. I'm in Sedona. I'm definitely getting up to the Red Rocks. I had an amazing conference last weekend, and it's important to get into it. So yeah, well, man, I guarantee you're in my neighborhood in British Columbia all the time. So
where do you live?
Well, so I was in Whistler for 8 years.
Yeah.
But the last 4 I've been traveling. So last year I did the French Alps. The year before that was Mammoth. The year before that was Vernon, because I needed a nice work environment. And this is the first year in 11 years I haven't been able to snowboard all season because, life has transitioned into, I love snowboarding and I love that. But this little phase here is of service to the entire planet. And I know that I need to be in certain spots. So I'm just listening to spirit and going to that. So it sucked me into the Sedona vortex with, healers, UFOs, angels, like all sorts of wildness. So I'm like, yes, I love this. This is great. So, I had like the Cosmic Awakening conference all weekend and Corey Good and, shamans. There was this native elder there, dropping, and native elders know this, right? That's why I love elders. And I kind of talked about it on my Instagram of the importance of actual elders. We've lost that in our culture. And Western culture is one of the few where they really don't respect their elders in the same way that native cultures do or European cultures. They're around for 100 years. They know something, you 20-year-old jackass, or you 30-year-old jackass. But the difference between me is I don't know shit, and I know that. So I'm open to wisdom, but I know that I got to find it within myself. That's a little bit of a difference. So, but we kind of go around like we know anything, and they could really help us if we give them the time to listen and reintroduce them into our culture. So I'm really adamant on trying to get more native wisdom into our culture, and how do I find those people and help them? I know 2 right now, and David was on the podcast. I'm gonna get Clifford Mahudi on the podcast, who's a Zuni elder, and they're saying the same thing about a lot of stuff. So it's really beautiful, timeless wisdom. Yeah.
It'd be great to keep working with you. There's a lot of ways to go.
100%. I'm all in, man. It would be a tremendous honor. So, how do people get a hold of you if they want to look at your books, if they want to see your work? Where do we send them?
My website is Jon, Jon. Yeah, start all over again. My website is Jon Turk, JONTURK.net. And everything's on there. The 2 most recent books that I recommend reading are The Raven's Gift and Crocodiles and Ice. And you can go on the contact, and I'm not so famous. I answer every email that people send me. Go on to my contact form and send me an email and open a dialogue, and I give workshops and talks, and it's all out there.
Amazing, brother. Well, I'll definitely link up your email address to this, so the show notes on the podcast and YouTube and all that kind of fun stuff. I just want to take this moment. I said it a little bit before, but just thank you for bringing back the story. Thank you for sharing the message with so clear. Like very no distortion, just open and honest, and it's really powerful and really beautiful. So I definitely recognize you, and I appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you are and you're doing. So,
well, thank you for everything that you are and you're doing, Matt.
I appreciate that, brother, man. I really do. So, thank you everyone for listening. I'm sure you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.